Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Cafecito Con Conciencia. I will be your host today, Leo, and as always, with me is Susie and David. It's an honor to be with them all the times, and we've kept this podcast going on for all of you, just so that you can hear our opinions on these certain topics. And I will be leading today's discussion with the importance of treating a essential worker, meaning it can be a person that works at the mall, person that's taking phone calls at home, working from home. So anyone that, let's say, needs to go out because their job is the only way that they can, that's the only the way that their job can work at this moment. That's the topic that we'll be discussing today.
Yeah, Leon, I think it's such an important topic because I feel like the holidays are coming, right? So, with the holidays coming, you always, I don't know, people just tend to be a little more like greedier and like enojados, because like they are trying to get what they want because it's like it's all about what I want, what I want, what I want, what I want, and there's not a lot about like thinking about other people. So it's really important for us to like kind of start discussing this so we can be very conscious as we engage in like different activities under COVID.
Right. I mean, from a personal experience, I can tell my story. You know, as I feel like everyone else can relate to this, where first job, customer service, it's kind of like the easier one when you're growing up. That's kind of the first job that you land. I feel like everyone can agree on that. It's a difficult. It's kind of like you're thrown in there into the fire, and you gotta figure out how to survive within there, and with little support from management as always. But I see, especially now with this whole thing of COVID and then also the holiday season coming up. So for anyone out there that's working customer service, anything related, be it restaurant, be it in clothing, be it working from home, taking phone calls and everything like that, we're here. We hear you. I feel you the same way. I've been on that same boat where people have to endure these conversations with people who really just want to make you upset. So, speaking at a store level from my own experience, there's always those customers that are upset. They want everything quickly done. They don't understand that there's a process behind everything that has to be done. It's not just an easy, oh, I'm gonna give it to you now and fix it. Because one, sometimes that offer that they got at that moment is not available anymore. Even maybe the product's not available anymore, or that's something we just don't do anymore. So it's really trying to connect to them on that level. I know, and it's difficult because every situation is different. But I feel you, and I think that Susie and David can also relate to this on a certain level.
To me, Leo, it's interesting, y'all, because there's a lot of people out there who celebrate the holidays, Christmas, um, quote unquote Thanksgiving is around the corner, you know, colonial holiday, that shouldn't be celebrated in my opinion, but um, it's just interesting because all these things are coming right around the corner, and then you have Black Friday, and so in this society, it's like you're thankful one day, right, or 2 days, and then you have Black Friday, and you have Cyber Monday, and you have all these other things, and it's like you have people rushing into the store, and this is pre-COVID, right? Rushing into the store, trying to fight for a TV, trying to fight for an item, trying to fight, for all these other things, and it's chaotic, right? Um, so on that end, it's like it's interesting to see that perspective of individuals, right, or see that side of them that it comes out because of this current process that we have due to capitalism, right, and how as consumers is like we always got to have something, right, and so on the customer level, that's what I'm noticing, right, but then on folks behind the counter, it's like you could just imagine the amount of pressure and the type of shit that people go through, right? Angry customers, agitated customers, demanding customers, customers who feel they have the privilege, right, to get a certain item. So it's like I can only picture all of that, and it just takes me back to my days when I was working at Macy's, right? especially during Thanksgiving, and everybody wanted to get uh, shoes and jeans and shirts and all these other things. So I don't know. I think it's a really good topic to bring up, right? Because during COVID, right, during these times, it's we have a really they want to call them essential workers, right? Um, and I think it's important to note the sacrifice that folks are making, right? Folks who are putting their lives on the line, right? Folks who are just exposing themselves to this virus, to people's behavior, people's violence, right? So I think it's important for all of us to take a moment, sit back, reflect, and really look at the way we're going to approach things moving forward. Right? A simple act of gratitude to the representative that you're speaking with goes a long way. Even if it's just over the computer, over the phone, a simple hey, thank you for your support, right? I can only imagine that that goes a long way.
Yeah,
So
I think it's just like it's crazy because like I think I've been reflecting on this. Just like I've been very fortunate and blessed to like have family who have not been, who have not been hit by COVID, intense. Like, and I feel like I mean, every day we see the number increase of cases, and then people who are, who are dying because of COVID, and LA in general, like cases are just, skyrocketing. That like we're thinking about again staying distance learning for next semester, right, when we come back in January. So I think for the folks that like have the privilege and just like been blessed to like not have immediate family members directly affected I think those of us, I think those are our targeted audience, right? Like when you are going out and buying and being consumers, because of course it's just like you're stuck at home, what else can you do? Go to the store, right? And if you and it's like everyone's dealing with so much that there's like an entitlement, just like you were saying, David, entitlement of like, I'm the consumer and you work here and you're gonna do what I want you to do, and it's the money, it's like, but then we like look, you forget, without this person working here, I wouldn't be able to come to the store, right? So there's like a really like hidden respect, right? I'm thinking about essential workers, right? Like they're again, like you call it, David, essential workers, but they're the first ones also in line for everybody else and take everybody else's bullshit, so is excuse me for my French, but so I think that's like, I think for everyone, right? Everyone differently. If you are someone who experienced or fortunately had someone in your close, family who died because of COVID, or who is like, someone who's really struggling with it, I think that person's perspective in terms of social distancing and like practicing, like wearing your mask, like I think they're a lot more willing to do it because they already suffered from it, right? So I think just like catching, like reflecting on our privilege right now too.
Right. I mean, even just before like this whole thing with this virus happened, there was people constantly going, like you mentioned, David, with Black Friday and all that. People waiting outside, and when the moment came to open, people were just bombarding the entire store, making it very overwhelming for even the employees to handle that situation, because there's a lot of people all at once. So there's a lot of injuries and a lot of people fighting over product because it's so limited, because they've made it that way. Again, capitalist society make this has made us become consumers, and then with the help of um, putting in so much advertising, convincing you that you actually need this now, you need it the day of. You can't just wait a little bit, wait like a week. No, because you have to be the first one to get it. That's the mentality that a lot of us have. And then also not to forget about even people when work with handle food too. You know, there's people that have they face the same struggles that even people who work in clothing, work in electronics, work like now even home from home over the phone. People who handle food at restaurants, especially during COVID. There's a procedure that has to be involved if you want to dine in, and it really upsets me when people are acting like they're entitled, and they're like, oh, I know, I don't have to wear the mask here when I'm not eating, or it can be the same way as it was before COVID, and it's like it's the same mentality. People want to be quick. They want to and they want to act like nothing's happening. So it's pretty frustrating to see that.
And I can only imagine, because it shows that at some point somebody's need and want overpowers the respect that you should be having for the person giving you that product or service, right? So it's like, at what point in somebody's mind, right, are they like, I want this so bad that I don't care how I treat you or how I come off to you, right? That I'm gonna forget that you're an actual person, that you're a human being, and you probably 9 times out of 10, you probably don't have any control over the outcome or how to approach the situation, right? So I don't know. I think people, yeah, as humans, we need to sit back and reflect on the way we do things, right? On our habits, right? What we consume, how do we consume it? But yeah, COVID has definitely, put a different, or it has changed, the way things are being reflected right now. So
Yeah, it was. I would even say like COVID has just like exposed, like inequities and just like how some people really are. I think a lot of people that are like really out there right now, they were hidden, behind like people that were trying to be nice and no, I'm not racist, and so it's like now that people are just being exposed by because of COVID, right? But I would just wonder, how much do you think the phrase "the customer's always right" have an impact on just like how people been socialized, right? Because or maybe again, I when I grew up in Mexico, I didn't really hear that phrase in Spanish a lot, like at stores, like I don't even know consumidor siempre es importante, but I never really heard that phrase growing up in Mexico. But here, that's like a constant, like the customer's always right. The customer's always right. So I feel like I don't know what do you think. Again, of course there's gonna be sometimes some customers that maybe do have la razón, but that's not all. That's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about just like just like how we can really embrace the customer's always right and use it.
Yeah, I like that you brought that idea up that the customer's always right, because to me, I feel like it comes off as like that puts a huge amount of pressure on the employee to satisfy that person, no matter if that person's wrong or they don't understand the process that needs to be done. So it kind of puts you between a wall and a hard spot, because you're stuck with really trying to satisfy that person the best you can, when really the process is a certain way. And then I feel like maybe when you get that support from management, from like a leader or a supervisor or manager that's on your side, that backs you up, it really feels comforting. But I know that I've been in situations that maybe others can relate to this, where you state it a certain way, and then all of a sudden the management comes in and they say a different way just to satisfy the person, which I think that is in a response to that the customer is always right. And it really makes you in the end look bad, because you're trying to respect the process of the store, the policy that's implemented, and then all of a sudden you got a manager or higher up switching the whole thing and flipping it and making it seem like you told them the wrong thing, and they have the power to overcome that. So it's really upsetting when that happens. And I've been in that position where I've been I said something, and then all of a sudden the management says something else, and then the customers are like, oh, looking at me like, oh, he's the wrong one. It's a situation where you got to really take the time after to be able to catch yourself up again, because it's not an easy conversation after that.
How often do you think that happens? Like, where the manager would just oppose anything you are saying?
I mean, well, I feel like that position starts with the relationship you have with the management, and then the way you they approach it. I can probably say from experience, there's always those managers that you feel a little more closer to, and then the other one that's like, oh no, if for some reason that person hates me, or I never got along with that person. So for anything in particular, in situations, I feel like you would go towards a person you feel more comfortable with. Um, but on the receiving end of having that support, um, it feels comforting to have that. But I mean, it happens all the time where the situation also is there's a miscommunication on both ends. There might be something that was said, and then the manager thought you meant this, but then it came off differently. So there's also that.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Yeah, I was just curious, like how often like someone has to deal with that every day, right? Of like feeling like being kind of like ridiculed, like or like put in embarrassment, just like where you're again how you're describing it, Leo, where you're saying you're trying to follow the protocol that you were taught, and when something doesn't go right, the leader who's supposed to be, your guide you and learn from puts you in a position where now you were, kind of like portrayed as like you don't know what you're saying. So that's like someone dealing with that every a lot like several times a day. I think that can take a different toll in just a person.
And Susie, I think you ask a really really good question that I had never thought about. Like it hasn't crossed my mind. I haven't paid attention to it, right? And that's like the experience in Mexico, right? Because you don't, at least like you, I've never heard it. Like if a customer tries to, you know, put up an argument over there, it's like you'll get kicked the fuck out. Like they won't take your shit, Like they'll be like, nah, 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 nah. ¿Sabes qué? Se me sale de aquí, agarra sus cosas. No me, and it's that argument of like, pues voy a ir a comprar allá a la tienda de fulanito de tal. Pues vaya a comprar allá. Like I don't care. Like I'll lose you as a customer, right? Like by all means, I'll open the door and go buy over there, right? And I'm just like, it had never crossed my mind. I'm just like, shoot, like and I think that's the thing with yes, Mexico también is capitalistic, right? But US is just it's so embedded in the culture and in the way that people have grown up, right? Because it's like you automatically as a business as a corporation, you automatically give the customer so much power by saying with that phrase, the customer is always right. Right? You give them so much power and you dehumanize your employees because now you got to take in whatever comes at you. You got to take it. Doesn't matter if you as an employee you're right. You just have to like stand behind the counter, stay quiet, and like take it all in. And that shit fucks with your mental health. Right? It messes up with your mental health, as a human being. And it's like your employer being contento, the business corporation, all happy and dandy because they're making money, but not only are they exploiting you because I'm pretty sure a lot of these big corporations are not paying you a fair share, but they're putting your mental health at risk, right? So it's just I don't know, like two different experiences that at least I have never seen it in Mexico, but it's so common here where it's like the moment a customer has an issue, it's like, where's your manager? Let me talk to your manager, right? I need to speak with your manager. Like, and I'm just like, man. So that's a really good question. If for any of you listening, if you've experienced anything different in Mexico or in any other part, um, what is your experience with that phrase? The customer is always right. So please share with us. We want to know.
And I brought it up porque my abuelita, still lives in Mexico, and she has like a little tiendita. She's like she still lives like in those towns where, you know all the Jalisco people out there, coming from Jalisco, um, but like those towns where there's little. tienditas like in the little colonias, and she runs one. She's been running one for a while now, and she's just a very person because like I've again in those little tienditas, like again I don't know, like you said, David, Mexico's still capitalistic, and if you go fancier and fancier Gucci or whatever, all those stores, I'm sure they have very similar mindsets to to the stores that are here, right? Because those are the corporations. But tienditas like in colonias and little towns, little pueblos, my grandma is like, she's always so mean, not mean, she's just like mean funny, she's like, she would say like, oh, this is like, ay mijo, ya es tu tercer coca, no es de tomar coca, like come on, like, like she'll tell like this one kid like, oh, it's like your third time buying a coke, like stop drinking so much coke. And then my tío would be like, grandma, stop, you want them to come back and buy from your store, and she was just like, well, I'm just concerned about his health, he's drinking too much coke, but even though she's profiting, right? But it's just like, I know it's just like her being, she's a businesswoman, who doesn't have a degree, who taught herself how to read and write, is running a whole store, but she's not someone that would be like, oh, don't talk to me like that, no, 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 si no quieres vete, no. She's not like that, like the customer's always right is does not is not her mantra, is not. But people still come back, so I think that's just like a very good question that you asked, David. Just like it's a different socialization, of like what does it mean to be a consumer. She's always making fun of how many, she's always counting how many bags of chips I'm eating, so it's
And now that I think of it, I mean, it's like you mentioned earlier in the conversation, David. It's like, do you get paid that much to put up with this BS? Really? It's asking a lot for such little given. I feel like, and like you were saying, just the amount of the toll it takes on your mental health, having to do one conversation, let's say a second later, do one conversation, and then it escalates and then it becomes a argument, and then all of a sudden that person's gone, then you got to hop onto the next person like nothing happened. That's like putting aside something, but I mean it's in the back of your head, like, wow, I just went through that, but now I got to act like nothing happened because I'm on to the next person. So I'd say like definitely takes a toll on your mental health, because there's not really a time where you can pause and take all of that what just happened in. No, because like no, you gotta just hop on to the next person, and especially now during holiday season, if there's like one person that is mean to you, and that goes for a while, and then all of a sudden that's over, and all of a sudden someone else comes in, and it's like, oh, I can't be mean to them obviously, but it's hard to make that transition so quickly.
And it just again it just comes to show the value, or where the importance is from these employers, these big companies, corporations and stuff, right? And even politicians, because all of this again, it's political, right? um it's like they're calling you all essential workers, and you are, but are you receiving your fair pay so you can cover your expenses, so you can have a roof over your head, so you can pay your bills, so you can, um you don't have to worry about the next month, right? A lot of these folks who are essential workers are probably earning less than that $15 minimum wage that is being pushed throughout, you know and that's something that people need to reflect. Like, there's somebody, when you're going to the store and you're that person that goes with an attitude, or you're that person that chats in with an attitude, or calls in with an attitude, customer service, there's somebody on the other side, whether it's on the counter, the computer, the phone, taking in all the bullshit that you're putting out there, right? And you're putting at stake their mental health, you're putting at stake all these other things, that affect somebody, and emotionally too. And they're not getting paid enough And that's even a different question. That's a different topic, right? Because there's no such thing as enough compensation for you to take somebody's behavior, right? But they're not getting paid, a reasonable, a living wage for them to be able to thrive and survive, right? And not have to worry about what's coming the next month. So
Just to like, what about like those essential workers that are undocumented, or they couldn't like are not able to get unemployment, or so it's like it just gets deeper and deeper, and but then people are like are willing to say blame like, oh, they stole our jobs or blah blah blah, but right now like they are the ones holding everything open, right? Essential workers. And I think uh David, you brought up a good point. Like it's political. It's all about politics, right? It's about like the center of all of this is like it's like a very individualistic, how just individualistic capitalism makes people, right? Like how it really does come to that. Porque like, okay, you got the workers who are like working because they need to maintain the society open, and then you got the consumers because they're stressed out and they also want to make sure they consume. So it's like I just feel like in both ends, people are still struggling. They're trying to like, sometimes like I do want to assume best intentions, and they're both like being run down, like are running in low fumes, while the corporations, the one percenters, like who people who have power are just making profit, 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 profit. After you just, it's like it's a puppet show. You got the workers who are dealing with everybody's BS, and then you got the consumers who think, oh, just because I have a stipend or I have a 1,200 stipend, I can just go and shop. And it's like that's nothing nowadays. That goes fast within. That's not even enough for like a studio if you live in LA. So it's like you got all these people who are fighting each other, while the corporations are the ones. Oh well, that's cool. I'll just let them do what they're doing, and I'll just keep profiting because they're gonna continue to buy.
Yeah, and then you also have like those people working more than one job too, where they go in at, let's say, 6 in the morning or so, or 5, and then they come out at 11, and then they have 1 hour in between to eat and change and get ready for the next job. And let's say their next job is a drive away. There's traffic, and then there's a bunch of other factors. So it's just there's a whole process that people have to go through, and to just, let's say, come into your second job and then put up with someone's BS. It really just, it makes you tired by the end of the day. You're exhausted, and then it takes a toll on your mental health, because you're going to be thinking about that conversation that you had a week from now, even if you had it a while back. So it's never gonna you're always gonna remember those conversations you've had, those difficult ones especially, that you had with people.
and right now, I was doing a quick search because I had seen this like Susie said, if you're not on Instagram, then you're not up to date with the news, right? Um, I was trying to find one of my friends had shared a really interesting um, meme, right? That talked about Jeff Bezos, como se pronuncia el nombre del pelón ese, his income, right, compared to the U.S. population. And I can't find it, but I found something else even interesting, right? But that meme said something about Jeff Bezos being a billionaire, right, and still being able to give $1 million to each individual, and still being a billionaire, something along those lines. So I was just thinking about, I was like, man, like this guy is making mad money even during a pandemic, right? Um, so this other search that just came up is it talks about, if we were to compare his spending power to the median income of an average, quote unquote, right, U.S. household, and that average is set at $97,300, right? I don't make $97,300, so I'm not even in that comparison. But um, for every dollar, that an average American family, quote unquote, spends, this Pelon would be spending about $1.95 million for for $1. For $1, an average American family spends this alone would be spending 1.95 million.
So that just, again, that just shows you like what is valued here. You know, like what, like people keep saying um like people are complaining about like the, a governor just like talking about like the new curfew and like shutting down and not being able to, wear a mask and stuff like that. But while he's this person's making like for $1, he's making 1 billion, and so many people are dying, and there's not enough to pay rent. There's not enough to pay keep people in houses. It's just like, what is again, that just shows we're not the priority, right? Human life. So if we can produce, then we are maybe, but we're so disposable.
No, and I feel like that's also one point too. That's a really good point because there's also that idea that you're replaceable. So it's like if you can't handle it, I can always find someone else to do this. So that's why sometimes we also put up with it, because it's not easy to find another place to work at. Not every place is gonna just take you in that simple. So that idea of if you're easily disposed of, and especially like in customer service, there's someone else that can come in and replace you. So I feel like to a certain degree, that's why some of us put up with it, and also just because it's secure income that we have at the moment. So that's all we can do. And to another point, I mean, the it's mind-boggling, the idea of that. I remember a study, I forgot where it's from, but the whole idea was that if we take the 1% from every major corporation, and we distribute it evenly within everyone else, everyone would be equal and be able to have basically a decent life, and they would still remain like millionaires. So it's it's insane how much they prioritize their money over the person that they have at that level where it meets one on one at a store. And to a second point that I wanted to point out too is those people who, especially during right now during COVID, that don't take it seriously, and let's say they go to a restaurant or they go to the mall or something like that, and they refuse to wear that mask. They're only there for that amount of time, that 5 minutes, 30 minutes at max, let's say, and then they're gone. But the worker is there for a full 8 hours, and then they're back the next day, and then they see anywhere from maybe 100 people a day, and let's say out of those 100 people, there's 25 that don't want to comply and don't want to wear the mask and all this and that. It spreads, and it puts those it's basically that puts all the people in danger because of someone's negligence and not to follow some simple guidelines.
David's in real thought. I'm just no, I just wanted to point that out.
No, it's because I had a thought, and then I should be writing these down as they come in. Se me fue el avión.
That's another one. I didn't know that. So fue el avión.
Se me
It's a
fue el
good one.
avión. Like, shoot.
It's
Um,
landing. It's landing. Oh, it's
oh,
landing.
ya regresó, ya regresó. Yeah, it's here, it's here. Prepare, people, prepare. Um, it's looking at all this, right? It's looking at how much, not just the worker is taking in, right? It's also looking at how much the employer is benefiting, right? And seeing that even after you're a millionaire, even after you're a billionaire, even after it is statistically proven, right? And I'm not a big mathematician, right? But I could do some basic math, and it's proven that even if you were to give money to people, you would still be a billionaire. Even after all of that is taken into account, you're still not willing to give your workers fair pay. And I think now that I'm starting to think about it, it's like seeing it as a minimum wage. Like the minimum. You should be paying people at least X amount of money. Like that's problematic, right? Because it shouldn't be a minimum wage. It should be a living wage. You should be able to earn enough money that you don't have to worry about covering your basic living needs. Right? Living needs. We're not even talking about you going out and partying and buying all these other things, shoes, clothes, all these other things that you want to have. But you should be able to cover your basic living needs, right? And people like that Pelon are selfish. They're egocentric and they're in it for the money, as y'all can see it. So I think I don't know. For me, like me da mala espina, and I look at it the wrong way. Um, but also I'll also taking into account a worker's well-being. So I think this holiday season, folks, y'all, we all need to be really cautious about the way we come across to people, the way we approach people. Um, but I would really like for everybody to start saying thank you. Like a simple thank you again goes a long way, and it makes people's day. Right? I used to be in customer service, and it was rare when I would get a thank you. But when I did, when a person would tell me that, like it would change it. I could have probably had like the most shittiest day, but if one person was to tell me, and it's pretty odd to say it, but if at least to me, I don't know about you, Leo, but to me, if one person was to tell me thank you for your help, I really appreciate it, you know, like I was like, man, I did something good today. Like I helped out somebody today, and they're happy with the way I did it. So
Yeah, just a simple thank you, I feel like, or please, or good morning, or just acknowledging someone's existence, I think is like goes so powerful, and it's just crazy to see just so many. And I think also just like COVID got everyone like anxious, right? If they're too close, if they are like sneezing, if they are, so it just kind of gave people more of a right to kind of be a jerk, but it's like, how do we make sure, we're treating people with the dignity they deserve? I think that's like David and Leo, you both of you, have mentioned that it's like, again, a simple thank you and please, and like, just respecting each other, like how we need to respect each other, right, as human beings.
It's funny. I'm sort of gonna flip the conversation a little bit on the. So we touched upon a little bit of the negatives, the impacts that it has, but in a funny kind of weird way, I feel like you do learn a lot from customer service. You learn kind of life skills from there. You learn a lot of how to maneuver conversations, how to you know let's say that you've had very awesome conversations with people. They've been super nice and everything. You learn from that. You learn how to carry conversations. You know how to start some. So that's I would say that that's kind of like the good side to customer service. You grow in an individual where you put yourself in a new position. You Let's say there's that position that you kind of wanted, but you were so anxious and nervous about, or uncomfortable in that situation. It's funny because if you put yourself in that uncomfortable situation, really, you're only gonna learn. You're not gonna lose anything. So I would say in a funny way, customer service as is good, and obviously it's bad, but looking at the good sides, I feel like that's what you learn from it.
but you Leo, you just took me back to my time at the convention center. One of my colegas got me this little gig selling perfumes. So it was like this little shopping spree going out at the convention center, and people with different small businesses would go there and sell perfume, sell ropa, and all these other things. And the homie got me this gig, selling perfumes. And I don't know, I guess it's just a habit because growing up in Mexico and then with my parents, and you would just see me like in my natural zone. Check it out, folks. Come in, check it out. We got good sales going on and X, Y, and Z. And but I was being loud. I would be loud. It's just like, come on, folks, check it out, check it out. And people would be coming. And the guy liked it so much that after the whole gig was done for that day, he was like, I want you to come back tomorrow. Can you come back tomorrow? So it's like, I think you're right. It does help you develop certain skills. It does help you, get step out of your comfort zone, and it's a great thing to do, honestly. So
So if I heard "pásale, pásale," that was you, David. That was you.
that was probably me. That was probably me. I could probably do it. I'll be like, pásale, 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 mira, pásale, pásale. 3 por 5, 3 por 5, 3 por 5, pásale, 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 pásale. No, no. Allá se lo van a dar a 10, no. Regrese por acá, se lo dejo a 8, 8, no. Se lo dejo a 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, no menos, no menos, porque si no le pierdo.
Yep, yep. That's
Yeah,
yep.
you become a salesperson in that aspect where it's like you know how to convince people to come over to your stand.
Yeah,
Yes.
they and those, and then you got those like go follow you until you try something. So that's that's some you're like, no, thank you, no, sorry, no, no. um, but I've been, the jobs that I have had have always been with like I guess in terms of customer service, I always work with like students. Since I've been fortunate to do that, and but I feel like it's very similar where, well, not very similar in terms of like I know it's like a different power dynamic. Like if you're like at a store and or a restaurant, people feel like and so entitled, right? But I think working with students, like I think the concept of like the customer's always right now is like the student is always right. I think shift is like it's now we're talking about kind of working with people's lives and mentoring and doing all of that. But what I was trying to just get to is just like I learned so much from them, right? Like you mentioned, like you just learn how to talk. You just like working with people just really challenge your communication skills. It really challenge you how you're gonna step out of your comfort zone, how you're gonna handle different stressful situations. I think like you said, Leo, it's just working with other people. Like if you really embrace that job, it just like teaches you so much. And if you're willing, and if you have, but it comes down to like having good leadership too, right? Good bosses, like people that will give you a training that you need to be at, and not just like, oh, you're gonna learn from experience, right? So it's just like really comes to like the environment that you're in. Um, it changes people's experiences.
Yeah, I feel like when going into a job, if there's proper training for certain situations, you have that in the back of your head, so you know what to do in certain situations. But there's always those cases where they're pretty out of. I've never heard this case, and it's the first one of that type where you kind of learn from experience and then you learn from trial and error. But I do, from your standpoint, as far as being an educator, would you say that there's kind of the same aspect as in that some students are a little bit more demanding than others, if that's the right word?
Crazy part, yes, they are. Even if they're just like it's crazy, like working, and I think it goes very deep, right? It goes very deep. But like working in Watts, I've never met some entitled little kids, and but like then you start figuring, then you meet grandma or you meet aunt, like mom or tia, and like because they have to work 24/7 to just bring food, pay rent, they often neglect their child, their student at home. So how do they try to rebuild that relationship? By buying them stuff, buying them the new iPhone, buying them this, buying them that, and that creates this entitlement mentality where in class, if they don't get the way they want, it's like it's like, oh, you're wrong, miss, like blah blah blah. Like I deserve that A and blah, and it's just like whoa, 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 and again, it's just like, but when you get deeper into why the student is thinking this way and like why they're getting so defensive when someone tells them no, or like that's not okay what you said, or can you put your phone away, um a lot of times it's so deeper than what we could only imagine, but it's just like, but again, the more and more you met with families, mom has two jobs or dad is a single parent, or a student is a foster youth who like no one's really at home, so they can do whatever they want, or they are really parents are both hardworking and they are at home and they have all the support, but the student is just in the wrong environment with the wrong people. So it's just like, damn, but like entitlement, yes, 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 yes. I see your head nodding. I know you've seen some of these kids.
I'm crying. I'm crying because now I know I'm not the only one that goes through this. I'm crying. No, but Leo, to your point, yes, yes. I think, sometimes we do come across students, youth who have that sense of entitlement, right? And like Susie mentioned, there's many reasons for that. There's many things that come into play, and sometimes it doesn't have to be at home. Sometimes is the programs that they're a part of, right? The organizations that they're a part of, right? And the way things have been managed for years, or how you know things have just worked out the way they wanted it to work out, right? And now, for me has always been challenging. When I go into a different space, a different organization, it's like I don't want to challenge you, right? But there's a method to the way that I do things. There's a method to the way that I conduct my academic advisements. There's a method that I conduct my check-ins, right? And maybe that student is not so used to that, right? Maybe now they're spending 30 minutes with me as opposed to 15 minutes before, or maybe less time, right? uh, and we're diving into deeper conversations, right, about uh, planning your next steps in your next semester, your next year, right, or really looking at what are you going to do after graduating college, right? And yeah, I think it for me is that it's I don't take it personal, right? Of course, I don't take it personal, but I try to be understanding of the situation, and I try to just, okay, this might be something different for you, right? My approach might be something different, and it might be the first time that you're going through maybe a process like this. So, well, baby steps, right? But definitely, I think entitlement could be seen in just about anywhere, right? At the customer service level, at schools, nonprofits, right? We could go on and on and on, right? So
Yeah, again with the ego, basically carrying that I am in control. I need this because I want
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, and then like power dynamics, right? Like you were saying, just like you are, because you're a higher position, or because or whatever, like, or you make more money, or whatever the case is, whatever power, because you have more power, social power than, or capital than the other person, people feel entitled to like treat them the way they want, the way however they want, and it comes, it's a sick mindset. It's a sick mindset.
I mean, but that comes. It's a result of the whole capitalistic society and the hierarchies within class system.
that's another beast that we're going to be tackling for sure. Definitely something else.
When it comes into the end of it, I mean, all these topics are very related. They play some sort of communication within each other.
And the phrase like the personal is political, it just like it's just, again, it just keeps on coming up, right? It's like the way we shop is very political. The way we treat people is very political. So like, even though people are like, oh, I'm not, like you said, David, the other day, oh, I think it was Leo, like, oh, I don't get into politics. You do. You might not call it that, but
Well, even if you, after listening to what we've been saying, have can relate or have a maybe a different approach to any of these situations, or have your own way of approaching certain situations. Drop us a comment, and we can have the conversation of what your experience was. Any last thoughts that you might have, David or Susie?
For me is, folks, this holiday season again. It shouldn't even be a challenge, right? But I know a lot of folks, they like challenges. But this holiday season, you know, for what's left of the year, I want you all to just take a moment to reflect. And whenever you make a purchase, or after you make the purchase, after you finish a chat with an agent, after you get off the phone with a customer representative, say thank you. Say thank you. And trust me, it's going to go a long way. And on another note, instead of buying from big businesses this year, go and support local small businesses. They really need you. They need us, right? They're the ones being hit the hardest during COVID times. And they're really going to be thankful for all the support, the financial support that you're going to bring in their way. So, really consider buying from small businesses, local and moms, right? So, that's just my ask.
Well, yeah, investing in our communities, right? I think that's like very important. Because like how we highlighted earlier, like the rich keep getting richer, right? But the essential workers are just like they're getting affected the worst with COVID, right? So again, just keep that in mind, and just if someone does, get you upset, or because it's gonna happen, right? It's like, again, we are living under stressful times where people have high anxiety, and like people are dealing with like different emotions. Um, Stuck at home, working from home, living in a house with a lot of people is like, trying to find your own quiet space as you're trying to work, right? Again, emotions are running high. I think one thing someone told me one time was like, the only thing you can control is the way you react, right? The only thing you can control is the way that you react. So the next time you are feeling that way, just breathe for a little bit, and then just make sure, like, okay, everything is out of control, but the way you react is something that we can control.
Well, you heard it here. Our opinions on essential workers and how much you should be polite and end with a thank you, and that you appreciate the work that they're doing, especially during these times. Again, like we said in the other episodes, if you need to go to the store for any reason, social distance, wear your mask, be polite to everyone, because you don't know whatever people are going through. They might be stressed out because they just lost their job, they're looking for something else, so you never understand other people's positions. I would say just be nice to everyone. That's our closing statement for today. Thank you.